All right, let's get right into it. We're not just talking about another fast car today, not even close. We're talking about a machine that totally ripped up the rulebook and redefined what an automobile could be. It was, and still is, a true landmark of human engineering. This is the incredible story of the Bugatti Veyron.
You see, before the Veyron, the world had supercars, sure. But this was something else. It literally created a whole new category of car. The Veyron was the very first production car in history to reliably and comfortably give you over 1,000 horsepower and just smash through the 400-kilometer-per-hour barrier.
And that's exactly how the people who built it thought about it. This was never about just building a slightly faster Ferrari or Lamborghini. No way. This was about achieving something that most of the experts at the time said was physically impossible. It was a statement, a flex of ultimate engineering muscle. And that mission came directly from the top, from the legendary chairman of Volkswagen, Ferdinand Piëch. He laid down the challenge. He didn't just want a fast car, he wanted a technical masterpiece, and he defined it with two numbers that sounded like science fiction: 1,000 horsepower and a top speed over 400 kilometers an hour. That was it. The mission was set. So to hit numbers like that, you gotta start with the heart of the beast. And the Veyron's heart, well, it's one of the most insane power plants ever bolted into a road car. Let's take a look at what it actually took to generate that kind of monumental power. Just look at these numbers. They are absolutely staggering. We're talking 8 liters, 16 cylinders, and not one, not two, but 4 turbochargers all working together. The end result? A certified 1,001 horsepower and a tidal wave of torque that feels less like acceleration and more like the planet is rotating underneath you. It's just a relentless tsunami-like push at any speed. So why a W16, you might be wondering? Well, it's actually an incredibly clever solution to a huge problem. Instead of a long, traditional V16, they essentially fused 2 V8 engines together onto one crankshaft. This made the whole engine way shorter and more compact, which was absolutely critical for keeping the car stable and making everything fit. It was a real stroke of genius. Okay, so you've made 1,000 horsepower. Great. But that's only half the battle, because an engine that powerful creates an equally massive problem: heat. I mean, a catastrophic amount of waste heat that would literally melt a normal car. And don't just take my word for it. This quote says everything. The engineers on the project actually admitted it. Just keeping this car from overheating was a bigger, more complex challenge than making it hit its mind-bending top speed. So what was the answer? 10. That's the magic number. 10 separate radiators stuffed into one car. It's a number that is just completely unheard of in the automotive world. It gives you a tiny glimpse of the insane complexity hiding just underneath that beautiful bodywork. It's not so much a car as it is a mobile cooling plant. You've got 3 radiators just for the engine itself, 3 massive intercoolers to cool down the air being shoved in by the turbos, and then you have dedicated coolers for the transmission oil, the differential oil, the engine oil, even the AC has its own. Every single critical part needed its own private cooling system just to survive. This is why a Veyron could do these insane acceleration runs over and over again and not just explode. All right, so the engine is making power and it's not melting. The next battle was against the laws of physics, because when you get to 400 kilometers per hour, the air, it stops being air. It becomes a violent, invisible wall that you have to punch through and control perfectly. Yeah, this really puts it in perspective. At normal highway speeds, aerodynamics are all about getting good gas mileage. But at the Veyron's top speed, it's about survival, plain and simple. The forces trying to rip the car apart or lift it into the air are just immense. Without some serious electronic and mechanical magic, it would be all over. And they managed it with a whole suite of smart, active systems. That rear wing is a work of art. It's constantly moving, adjusting for downforce. But get this, it can also flip almost vertical to act as a giant air brake. The car is literally changing its own shape as it drives, lowering its ride height, all to stay glued to the asphalt. But here's the thing. To unlock that legendary 400+ kilometer an hour top speed, you can't just floor it. Oh no. Bugatti engineered a very specific, almost ceremonial procedure to get the car ready for its ultimate run. It's like a pre-flight checklist for a fighter jet. First, the car has to be completely stopped. Then, you take out a special second key, the top speed key, and put it into a separate lock on the floor.
The car then runs through all its systems and begins to transform itself into the most aerodynamic shape possible. The big wing retracts, and the whole body just hunkers down. And how low does it go? Just 65 millimeters. That's it. We're talking about 2.5 inches of space between the bottom of the car and the road. Just picture that. The car physically squashes itself down, ready to slice through the air and shatter that barrier. So, after all of that unbelievable, mind-bending engineering, did it work? What was the result? Well, the Veyron didn't just meet the goal. It completely and utterly dominated the world of speed, setting records that nobody could touch for years. In 2005, it was official. Fastest production car on the planet. And then, just to show everyone it wasn't some kind of fluke, they came back 5 years later with the Veyron Super Sport and broke their own Guinness World Record, pushing the top speed to an absolutely ridiculous 431 kilometers per hour. Now, this brings up a really interesting question. You'd think that if you build the most complex, advanced car in the world, you'd make a ton of money, right? Well, in the case of the Veyron, the answer to that is a hard no. The financial reality here is just wild. All that research, all those exotic materials, it meant that Volkswagen reportedly lost millions of dollars on every single Veyron they sold. So why on earth would they do it? Because the goal was never about profit. The goal was to make a statement that was truly priceless. The real investment here was prestige. The Veyron was what we call a halo car. It was built for one reason, to show the entire world what the Volkswagen Group's engineers were capable of at the absolute peak of their powers. It was about proving they could do the impossible, and in the process, they changed the entire game. And maybe its greatest legacy is this simple fact. Before the Veyron, any car that could break records was a stripped-out, bone-shattering, miserable race car. The Veyron was a beautiful, leather-lined, comfortable Grand Tour that also just happened to be capable of over 400 kilometers an hour. It proved that you didn't have to choose. You could have it all. And all those lessons they learned about cooling, about aerodynamics, about materials, they didn't just get filed away. They became the foundation, the very bedrock, for the next generation of incredible hypercars, starting, of course, with Bugatti's own successor, the even more powerful Chiron. In the end, the Veyron is so much more than a car. It's a monument to what human beings can achieve when they decide the word impossible is just a suggestion. It was a car built not to make money, but to make a point. And it proved that any technological limit is really just a temporary barrier waiting to be broken. Which leaves us with one very exciting question. What's next?